So, welcome to the hypnotherapy certification training. And yes, the word is going to be hypnotherapy. We'll talk about that throughout the training at various times. I think of this as a very advanced training because of, thankfully, the wonderful teachers and mentors that I've had throughout my 34 years in February to be studying this. And I'm one of those people, as soon as I started studying it and realizing I was going to become a hypnotist, which wasn't my goal taking the training. I just wanted to learn more about it for myself because I'd already been studying it for 20 years and using it for myself. But within 6 months, I just knew this was what I'm supposed to be doing now. And I have taken every class I've had time and money and opportunity to take. Sometimes even when I didn't have money, run up the credit cards. What the heck? It's all for a good cause. Back in the old days, we had to travel lots of distance and spend money for travel and hotels and meals and long days of trainings. And it was a whole different world, wasn't it, Art?
It was. It was much more expensive.
Much more expensive. You really had to be dedicated. And these days, I'm happy to say, everybody, the people growing up now, they don't know about that. Just like I didn't know about what happened with my grandparents. It's just different worlds. And there are people, some really exciting younger people that I'm starting to meet at all the conferences and things that give me a lot of excitement about where this field is going. And the online, thankfully, I was very skeptical at first. The online training and working with clients, the basic principles are exactly the same. And once I realized that, when COVID kicked in, it took COVID to, kick me into gear. And then it was like, well, of course it works online because I'm not doing anything to the person other than guiding them. It all happens inside of the person. So why would it be any different? I still love to be in person with people, though. Yeah.
There's a little research that's come out lately that says that if you're working either in person or on Zoom, what you'll probably notice is that if it's possible, the older people would probably rather come into your office and be in person. Yeah. That's the way they're used to working. And the younger people would rather do it on Zoom because they interact with screens better, So in person makes them uncomfortable a little bit. So they'll
probably... it's outside of their comfort zone. And and like you said, they kind of grew up with doing things on screen, on internet. Mm-hmm. Kind of thing. So to them, it's very personal, and I'm sure it feels natural and all that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's always good to do something new and to get outside of whatever box or limits people have in the past. And it's certainly teaching me a lot of new stuff, keeping my life interesting and exciting. Yeah, Art.
I'm going to write a paper, I think, if this happens again. It's called My Blue-Haired Clients. I learned more stuff from these little blue-haired ladies that come in, and one of them said, after I had gone through the preliminary stuff in the office and everything, I said, well, would you like a little demo of hypnosis while you're here? Oh, yes, I would love that. Where's your watch? And I said, I don't have a watch. And she said, oh, well, you're not ready then. And she got up and walked out. She said, you call me when you get your watch. And she literally walked out. We weren't even through. So I went to Walmart, and for $9.95, I got the biggest, gaudiest watch, with a big
watch on a chain.
So I called her and said, I have a watch now. So she said, okay, when you want me to come back? So came in, she sat in the chair. I said, are you ready? She said, yeah. So I took this watch and I went, boom, 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 like that. She was out.
Wow.
I never said a word. I didn't do it. But that
was met her expectation.
That was what she thought, that you're supposed to go into the deep trance when you see that watch swinging. And so that's what she did. It was great.
And see, in our generation, when you said blue-haired lady, your mind went in one direction. These days, it's a little different, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So change is good. I think the theme of the beginning, hypnosis sessions and hypnosis trainings seem to, I've noticed, create themes pretty quickly based on little input that people say and just the trajectory it starts to take. And I think the theme that we're starting to realize here already is that change is a good thing. And I say it all the time. Learning these techniques and the neurolinguistics is a big part of incorporating into the hypnotherapy, the way that I teach it, because it partially grew out of hypnosis. And to me, these techniques give people more choice. They put them more in control and allow them the opportunity to have more options, more choices, however you want to think of that. So it's always about more control for the person and having the ability to be aware of more choices for themselves. So let's start with some introductions. I'll have myself and Art introduce ourselves first. So I was invited by Michael Watson, is the primary trainer now, the trainer's trainer, as we call it, for IACT, International Association of Counselors and Therapists, which is the main organization that you're getting certified through here. I'm a certified master trainer for that. I've known Michael for decades, and he's one of my dearest friends. And he recently invited me to participate, to be kind of to audit, to monitor, whatever words they use these days, his trainer's training. And so he had myself and another person he had asked just to be there for kind of a body in the room to have to bounce off of and to kind of talk about, you know, how we run our trainings or little ideas we might have learned along the way for our training, because that's what these people are learning to be, as a trainer for IACT. So I went through 5 days in a row this past week, all the way up until my birthday on Wednesday, which that was the last day of the training. I went on for an hour in the morning, and then I said, I'm going to celebrate the rest of the day. So, but it was a great group of people. And going through that training, it was really interesting. It was a nice way to occupy my mind and learn some new, remember some things, learn some new little nuances of things coming to this. The other gentleman that's going to be joining us this weekend is a gentleman from that training. One of the, you have to be already a certified hypnotherapist, of course, for a certain number of years and meet certain qualifications to become a trainer, thankfully. And he was one of the certified hypnotherapists that just went through that and became a certified trainer with Michael Watson. So I had put it out. I've never done it before, but it occurred to me, since it was ending right before I was starting another hypnosis training, that they had a lot of questions about, what do you do if this happens? How do you handle this situation? How do you do breakout sessions? And I thought, I'm going to be doing one. And I've done it for a few years now. Not that I'm the greatest expert in all this stuff, but you know, I've done it. So I just, since I happened to be there with these lovely people, and there were just a few of them, I said, I've never offered this before, probably never will again, for free, because I do charge certified hypnotists to take modules, weekends of this training. And I said, I would like to invite any of you that are interested in actually, you know, auditing a weekend or the whole training for that matter, just to observe, to see what it's like. And you will have to participate sometimes for little breakout sessions or whatever, but not to be there to teach, obviously, but to be there just to observe and to learn how one person happens to be doing this online. And so far, I had a few of them said they might be interested in some of the weekends, so they might be joining us. There was a gentleman that's coming this weekend, and I hope he will be joining us soon. So that's the other person that will be here this weekend. And then next weekend, we'll have Cliff Kennedy from this past year's training, though, that will be joining us. So let me just, you can go online and read my extensive bio. Like I said, I'm a perpetual student, so I have so many certifications that when I went back and was looking at my bio a few weeks ago, even I was amazed and surprised of the certifications that I didn't even remember that I had until I saw it again. By the way, I take the same types of certifications from multiple different people as well, because what I have found is NLP, for instance, I did it with a lot of very considered, very big, famous experts in the field. And then when I got in a room with Michael Watson, I had already been prepped, of course, but he kind of brought it all together for me. So I call him my NLP guru, because after years of studying it, all of a sudden, it really clicked in with him. I was already getting benefits from it, but you know what I'm saying? It's like when the student is ready, the teacher appears, is the old saying. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of remarkable teachers that I stumbled into early, and a lot of them are no longer with us. So when I became a trainer 20 something years ago, after moving to Florida from California, I felt a real drive, a real compulsion almost to pass along some of these great lessons that I learned, some of the insights and concepts and techniques as well, because you'll be learning a lot of techniques. That's the conscious mind busy work. And it's to get things into your neurology, to get you used to the language, to get you to have some ideas about an approach or a technique or a way to do something. And yet it's more about the philosophy behind what you're doing, the conceptual part of it, and the philosophical, what is the intention of doing this technique? What's the purpose? What's the meaning behind all of these step 1, 2, 3 things that we're doing? And to be able to question and be flexible about sometimes changing the order of things, or injecting something that wasn't in the original technique the way you learned it, or leaving something out, or whatever, depending on the circumstance in the moment with the person that you're working with. Because this training, like I said, you're going to learn a lot of techniques and approaches. And I like to teach them the way people that created them meant for it to be, at least initially taught. The main thing that my goal is, my intention for this training, is that as you go through it, and by the end of this training, that you have a very wonderful confidence that you are hypnotic, that you can work with someone and create rapport, make a connection, ask certain questions. Listening to me is a skill that I think is very underestimated and not covered very much in a lot of the trainings, considering the people that come to my medical hypnotherapy training, because they're already usually been practicing hypnosis for many years. And a lot of them aren't aware of even what I'm talking about when I say the meaning, detecting and being aware and connecting with that unconscious part of the client to understand what is their meaning that's behind the words that they're saying, or even the nonverbal cues that we can learn about in many different ways. So it's about, I call it subtext. What's behind the surface? What's beneath the surface, if you like to think of it that way. So to me, that's more what I think what I hope, and what my goal is for you to be very, very proficient at by the end of this training, that you are confident that even if something comes to you that you've never even heard of before, that you understand it's not about that thing or that label or that box the person's been put in. It's about this human being sitting in front of me, and me bringing all of my unique abilities and all the things I'm trained in that have combined with all of my instinctive and unique and inborn abilities and traits and talents. And that I will, in each moment by moment connected interaction with this person, my creative unconscious will intuitively develop a ritual, a process with this person that will be in line with what I'm hearing that they're really here for. So you're going to get a lot of, I'm doing already some hypnotic language here without realizing it. I think I just hypnotized myself, actually. And that's a good thing. So anyway, I've been in the field, as I said, 34 years officially as of this coming February. I started at the American Board of Hypnotherapy and the American Institute of Hypnotherapy in Southern California with Dr. A.M. Krasner. I used to call him Crazy Al because he, like most, if not all of the heads of all the big organizations in the early 1990s, they were all stage hypnotists. So they were doing a lot of what I call shtick. I came before 1992 when I became certified in this, and within 6 months, my career changed. For 20 years before that, I was in show business. I was a professional singer. That was my first love. And then I got into acting. I was a professional actress, dancer. I did film, TV. Stage was my favorite. Live audiences, again, that was my favorite. For 20 years, I made a living at it. And that's not easy in those days. There was no online. There was no Instagram. There was no, I'm an instant star. I'm only 14. I'm already a star, and I have thousands of people. It didn't work that way. You had to travel, again, like in the early days of hypnosis, sometimes thousands of miles just to go in theater to an annual audition where a bunch of theaters from around the country would show up, and you'd have 8 minutes to impress them, with whatever, a couple of monologues, a serious one, a drama one, a couple of songs, and then you'd go look at the board the next morning after the first days of auditions and see who wants to interview you personally out of the hundreds of people. So it was a whole different world, right? And you had to, like I said, you had to really move around. So that was what I did for 20 years, but I was studying hypnosis, NLP, philosophy, psychology, everything I could find about mind, body, medicine, energy, anything that tweaked my interest. And I was studying and using all of these things so that when I got certified, the teacher appeared that I didn't even know I was ready for yet in Southern California. And Dr. Krasner that first day started talking about hypnosis. I felt home. I felt like I had arrived at a place that I was supposed to be. And like I said, really quickly, it happened that I knew the universe, for lack of a better term, you can incorporate any words that you like for these things, had shifted my trajectory of my future without me even intending to do it. But all of my preparation was those years that I studied it. And that studying started when I was 19, before I was 20 and went on the road with my first band. And at 19, I had a back injury that happened. I won't go into the details of that. It was a life lesson that was probably, I even thought about it within a year or two as the best thing that ever happened to me, weirdly. I even thought it was weird to think of it like that, because it led me to, first of all, a doctor that said I have to do surgeries. I'm going to need multiple surgeries, and then started telling me all the things I'm never going to be able to do, and showed me this horrible view of my spine, how it was all messed up, and it's telling me all these things. And there was something that happened in me. I had a natural, what we call in hypnosis, dissociation, where it was like my unconscious took me back, and he's out there just after a few words, I just heard him just, it was blah, 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 blah. And my inside of me was an extremely unquestionable intelligence that really got my attention. And it said, he's wrong. He's wrong. He's absolutely wrong. That's not your future. You don't have to listen to that. And I was like, wait a minute, the way I was brought up, small town, Midwest, you don't question doctors. They tell you to do something, you just do it, right? That's the way I was brought up. So, but it was so absolute, it really got my attention. It rocked my world, if you will, we used to say. So I listened because it was absolute, and I went a different direction. And back then, by the way, chiropractors this is we're talking like 1970, 71, in that era, before you were born again. In those days, chiropractors were looked at by medical doctors like witch doctors. They would not refer you to a chiropractor. Now, luckily, my stepfather had been in a helicopter crash a couple years before that. And even though they wouldn't refer him to a chiropractor, he had a friend that knew one, or that was one or something. And that chiropractor got him, it was a horrible crash. He was, in the hospital for weeks, and got him back in line. So I had already had a little bit of respect for chiropractic. So I started working on it with what they called alternative stuff in those days. And I started questioning, what was that thing in my head? Where did that intelligence come from? Where did that message come from? But I had heard it a few times before in my life. And if it's relevant for different things when we talk about them, I may bring some of those up. That gave me a little bit more respect for actually paying attention. And so I ended up going, and I started doing I bought a little yoga book, that wasn't really that popular yet. And I started doing yoga every day out of this little book that I bought. And I started reading books about mind body healing. And within a year, I went on the road with a band and never looked back. And I was, after that, singing and dancing and doing all kinds of gyrations and bodybuilding for a while, and all kinds of things I was never supposed to be able to do. And that's with all this surgery. So I never ended up having surgery, bottom line. So that's my relevant backstory to what brought me to this, because I always find it interesting, when you introduce yourself, what is it that brought you here? What is it that made you think this was a good idea? And I know there are people in this training who are licensed in some other areas, which is wonderful. I get a lot of doctors, a lot of psychologists, a lot of mental health type professionals, chiropractors, acupuncturists, a lot of people from the professional fields that are learning these things now. Because when you're interacting with someone that is coming to you for assistance with a physical or mental or emotional or whatever energetic challenge, the way that you speak with them, the communication is really an important element of the healing, isn't it? And people in those fields already know that. So to me, hypnosis and neurolinguistics are about communicating with that person's unconscious mind and still being able to listen to the conscious logical part of the mind. And we'll talk more about all those things as well. So I want to hear, what is it that that brought you here. And when you introduce yourself, and of course, where are you located, and those kind of relevant things, and anything you'd like us to know starting out, because we're going to all get to know each other really well in the next few weeks. So, like I said, the rest of all that, educational stuff and certificates and things, you can read about that if you're interested. But that's a little bit about what brought me to this moment. And I plan to do this until I can't breathe anymore because it never gets old. This is it for me. Art, my good friend Art, please introduce yourself.
Well, Patty and I have so many things that are similar in our backgrounds, and I know how much to tell you, but I got formally certified in 1980 by a group of people who were teaching something called organizational transformation. And I was at a conference and didn't have any other subgroup to go to that I could understand. It was a nuclear safety subgroup, and so anyway, this group said we can teach you how to transform an organization. I was with DuPont at that time. I retired from DuPont after 30 years, and so they taught this stuff, and it just lit my fuse on fire at both ends. And I said, I gotta know more about this. And so I went to a 1 week advanced program that was just 3 hours. Then I went to a 2 week advanced program with them, and they said, okay, that's it. We quit. We're not doing this anymore. And I said, well, you're young guys. What do you mean you quit? They said, well, we're actually majors in Army intelligence stationed out at the Pentagon. And the general said, we're telling you civilians too much about our military mind control techniques. I thought, whoa, no wonder I love this stuff so much. So I said, what else are you going to do? And they said, well, we're going to offer a 1 week advanced and then a 2 week advanced, which I went through both of those, and that was it for them. But they gave me a book list, and I bought every book on there, and I went to the bibliography and bought all those books. And so I have one of the largest hypnotherapy NLP libraries in the state of Florida now, which I'm into all the time, digging up stuff. But I guess my health story that got me really convinced to do medical work was I went to see a routine doctor's appointment, and the woman at the window handed me a letter. I opened it up, and it said, "Dear Dr. Emmerich, you have kidney failure. Please make an appointment with this doctor, a kidney specialist." So I thought, whoa, I think I'm dying. I don't know. I feel pretty good, but something's not right. So I got an appointment with a doctor he recommended, which turned out to be one of the finest doctors I've ever met. Unfortunately, no longer with us, but I went to see him and I gave him this letter, and he got so angry. He said, those damn doctors, they don't know how to talk. He said, everybody's got kidney failure. You start having kidney failure the day you're born. Your kidneys are just going to be attacked. Your blood pressure is going to attack them, and all these things are going to. And so the stuff you're running through, these bad foods that you're eating, they're just strain on your kidney. And he said, my job is to keep your kidney failure from progressing any further, because they're gonna fail from the day you're born. And as your age increases and your kidney failure increases, we just hope that you'll die before the lines cross, that you won't be here when the big one comes. So I'm in this meeting with him, and I said, well, tell me a little bit more about the kidneys and what are they, how do they work, So he said, I'm glad you asked me that. Most clients, most of my patients don't ask me. But he said, I started off, I wanted to be an engineer. And I was in an engineering program, and I went to a summer internship. And then the next summer I went to another internship. And at the end of that one, I said, if this is what engineers do, I want to go to medical school. I don't want to be an engineer. I don't like this. So he did, and he said they were going through the heart and the brain and the lungs and all, and they got to the kidneys. He said, I know how that works. That's a water filtration system. I learned about that in engineering. That's what I'm going to do. And he decided that was his specialty, and he went into it. And he loved it. He was just good. He was excited by kidney function, you know. So he said, "Why do you want to know this kind of detail?" And I said, "Well, I'm a medical hypnotist, and I've got to have a talk with my kidneys, and hypnotize myself and find out if I can help out any." And he said, "So you're going to talk with your kidneys?" I said, yeah, I am. And I didn't want to seem like a dork. I wanted to at least understand a little bit about how they work, you know, so they appreciate that. So that next morning, I hypnotize myself every morning. So I have severe back pain, and that's what allows me to get up and face the world every day. So this time I added on, I said, kidneys, I need to have a talk with you about something that's going on right now, but I don't know what to call you. Do I call you Art's kidneys? And they said, no, you could take us out of you and put us in somebody else, and we work this fine. I said, oh, okay, well, is it left kidney, right kidney? And they said, no, you could switch sides and we'd still work just the same. We're just kidneys. Just call it kidney. Okay, that's good. So my understanding is that because my creatinine test score was so high that you're kind of in distress. And the doctor said the problem is that you're not going to make any more of these little filtration units that are depleted every day. We deplete a few of it, nephrons. So they said, yeah, well, we make new nephrons every day. I don't know what he's talking about. You don't get any more because, you know, they used to teach you don't get any more brain cells. And we found out, no, we make brain cells all the time. Well, same thing is true with kidneys. So I said, well, I'll go back and tell him that information because that's not what he told me. They said, so what he did say was that we need to have some maybe additional nephrons from what you normally do because this creatinine scores is too high. And they said, well, we'll start bringing that down. I said, by the way, as a medical hypnotist, I want you to know that deeply stored, deeply in my unconscious is a blueprint of me in perfect health. And it tells what every cell, every organ, every system in the body is supposed to do if it's operating perfectly. So you could go there and maybe get some information. I don't know how you know what to do, and I'll check with you tomorrow, find out if that's been a help for you. And they said, oh no, that's a great help. We just went there, found the book. It's really good stuff in there. We'll start using that. Thought, whoa, okay, that's good. So they said, yeah, we'll start making more nephrons and get that creatinine score down. I said, well, I would really appreciate that. And I want to apologize because I have never thanked you for the job you've done for me for all these years. I've never said a word about it. And I know it's tiring to do beautiful work and then nobody says anything. So I want you to know that I really love the work you do. So I go in to see him a couple of weeks later, and I had another test, you know, and I'd take it in, and he said, "Oh, here's the guy that talks to his kidneys." And I said, "Yeah, doc, anybody can do that. The difference is my kidneys talk back to me." And he said, "Your kidneys talk back to you?" I said, "Yeah, they talk to you too." He said, "Your kidneys talk to me?" And I said, "Yeah, look at that paper." And he said, "Your creatinine score is going down." He said, "I've never seen that happen before." And I said, "Well, it's because of what you told me." And they said, "Yeah. So you got to tell me how far to bring it down because they'll take it down to zero, I guess, if you know. So we need a range here." So he said, "Yeah, between here and here, that's where we want it, just somewhere in there." So I said, I'll give them that information, but they wanted me to give you the information that they make new nephron units every day. And he said, no, they don't do that. He said, I'll check on that. So the next time I saw him, he said, I want to apologize to you. I went back to the med school I graduated from, and they said recent evidence from experimental work that we've done says kidneys do make new nephrons every day. And your kidneys knew that before I did. And I'm embarrassed about that. I said, well, my kidneys could teach you a lot of things, you know. And so he said, well, this is the first time this ever happened, but good for us, you know. So that was the initial contact I had with this doctor, and he continued to be my doctor's doctor. Really, he reviewed everything in my records, not just kidneys, and gave me advice on medications and things that I should watch out for them. So really a wonderful. So that's my success story of health and hypnosis, how I got very committed to the idea that our bodies hear us. We have 50 trillion cells, and all of them are listening to what we're saying and trying to do what we've asked for, what we focus on, what we repeat constantly over and over and over. They think that's something you must want. Otherwise, why would you keep telling me over and over? So if we focus on our disease and it says, oh, well, you keep telling me this disease, you must want that. I'll get more of it for you. So we got to focus on health. We're going to really learn how to aim our conscious and unconscious minds in a different direction that leads toward health rather than more disease. So anyway, since that time, I got an MBA from University of South Carolina. I got a PhD from California University, and I am a lifetime student also, as is Patty. And I'm honored to be here as a, I think, would you say a co-instructor this time? I got promoted.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
You
So
were at you were at almost every one of the last classes that I taught,
yeah.
so I thought might as well make
So-
it official. Right?
Yeah, so I'll be chiming in periodically with things to support what Patty's telling you, and maybe give another story to illustrate some of the things too. So glad to be with you.
And also Art, he's not singing his own praises very much, but he was awarded, what was it? You've got a couple of very prestigious, I know you're a life fellow with IMDHA, which is the International
IMDHA,
Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association.
mhm.
That's the medical and dental side of the group. I am a life diplomat, so I'm sure you'll probably get in that one next year, probably.
Oh, maybe.
I know you're a little bit older than me, but I got there first because thanks to Paul Durbin, who I will be talking about in this, I'm positive he's the one that set up for me to get that. Yeah. But Art, you were hypnotist of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, for IAC, yeah, Hypnotist of the Year.
And that was recent, right? That was pretty recent.
I got a Lifetime Achievement Award and
that was the
things
one
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have been richly rewarded for the work I've been doing now for over 45 years. And every day it's like the first day. I love it. And every time the phone rings, I think, whoa, who is that?
This is just a fascinating field again, because our consciousness is so complex. And again, the mind-body connection, the energetic connection, and then whatever people's ideas or interpretations or beliefs are about that other realm. Some people call it the soul, the spirit. I like the word essence, that other amazing aspect that is so far beyond all this. And it will never get old. And we're always learning more about it and how to use it. Humans have been studying this stuff forever. And we're going to talk a little bit today about the history. So, but let's hear a little bit about y'all. And by the way, Art is also a master trainer for IACT, as am I. And so and again, I've worked with him enough through the years that I really respect, and I know he's got some great stories and relevant input that can give you. I think it's nice to get a lot of different perspectives and input from different people. So I may even have some other trainers pop in for an hour or two here and there, just to give you a little bit of their expertise. So how about Angela?
Okay. Hi, I'm Angela. I'm in Pennsylvania. I have two kids, 14 and 12. So they're super busy this weekend. So I'm like, I'm coming to my office to do it because I need some peace. So I have a private practice for about 13 years now. So super busy, but I'm just launching more online coaching too. I want to just branch out to people that aren't just in Pennsylvania. So doing that.
What part of Pennsylvania are you?
I'm in Bethlehem.
Bethlehem.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Bartholomew in
Northeast.
Bethlehem.
Yeah.
It just has a ring to it.
Mhm.
And your practice is in
It's in Bethlehem. Oh,
no.
it's I'm a licensed counselor. I went to med school actually for my master's degree. It was in a Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine because I've always loved the mind and the body. Like so I
Uh-huh.
started like Penn State at with in kinesiology in the body, and I was going to do cardiac rehab, and then I was like I don't want to do this. I like talking to the people better why they their stuff is going on, more of the mind stuff. I had a gym, I've had several businesses, and I've just always loved the connection between the mind, body, spirit. I've had so many health problems growing up. My mom, just long story short, my mom was pregnant with me when her brother passed away that was 16. He fell off like 1,000 feet and died. And so I
Oh,
just think that trauma like caused a lot, even in utero. So I'm always
sure.
like fascinated by this. And I've been sleep apneic ever since I've been a baby. I would turn blue at night and just stop breathing, and doctors just didn't know what to do with me. And I've had like 8 surgeries. And so everything. So I'm just fascinated all the time by alternative medicine. You named it. I've probably tried it because you buck up against the system so much. And then um I was still apneic growing up, but I was thin and blonde back then, and they just didn't think I had that because that wasn't a big thing. I mean, I'm 48 years old now, so this was like 20 some years ago. And so went to the Mayo Clinic, and they're like, they made me see the psychiatrist. They thought I was crazy because I thought I had cancer and dying because I just would get headaches and just so sick all the time. So they made me see the psychiatrist, and I wasn't crazy. I was just, something was going on in my body because I diagnosed myself with sleep apnea. I saw it on TV. I was like, I still think I'm apneic. And so then they're like, fine, we'll give you a test, even though my dad was the vice president of a hospital, which is even crazier. So it's like, like I
Mm.
could have went the medical route, but they just didn't believe me that something was wrong with me too physically. Like I know, yes, I'm anxious and depressed because, something's wrong. So anyway, I I had the test, and here I was waking up 56 to 60 times an hour. So I was just never sleeping. So my body was just shutting down, like all my organs were shutting down. It was crazy.
Mm.
So anyway, lots of stuff that I've done to heal my body with lots of different techniques and tools. And then I did go back to grad school at 30. I was pregnant with my son when I went back at 30 years old because I just love constant, like you guys, I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly, how do I help my clients even more? Majority of my clients more anxiety or just things going on in their life, but I also love working with them on how the mind and the body can really help you because I think there's the subconscious programs and agreements and the epigenetics and all of that stuff that gets formed even before we're born that we just don't remember all of that stuff. So I was going to do a training 5 years ago, and then I did the Psych K training, and I did a bunch of other trainings, but now I'm here. So I'm super excited to learn and see how this all kind of fits in with what I'm already doing. And just and I was looking for a program, and someone that I know, her dad is did hypnosis. I actually think he's the one that did the training in Orlando. I don't remember the
That
guy.
did that did the training. What
I don't
training?
know. He has the hypnosis train, like I think she runs she helps her dad to run the hypnosis training in Orlando like once a year.
Oh,
Not a training,
oh, that's right. Because Laceyville, Pennsylvania, is where I act as.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're talking. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So
So
Robert Otto is. She's got some
yes, that's her
connection
name,
with the
Krista
Ottos.
Otto.
Yeah,
Krista
got it.
Otto told me about you because I was looking up all these programs, and I'm like they're not lining with me, like something feels off about this, and I
Uh,
just heard God say, contact Krista, ask her who she knows, and then that's what had she gave me your number, and that's kind of how it all happened. So
that's
feels
great.
divine to me. So when you mentioned that, I was like, I bet you that's the person. I didn't know that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love things like that because it
Yeah.
really is, the universe aligns right time, right place, right people. Like I
And you
said,
have to
right
ask.
teachers,
Sometimes you just have to
whatever.
ask.
That's exactly, I say that all the time. You got to ask. It's
Yeah.
okay to ask. Well, I'm so glad you're here. And well, like I said, we're all going to get to know a lot about each other. But I
Yeah.
want to just start it out by seeing, kind of where you're coming from and what you're here for. And like I said, this will only add more tools to your toolbox if you think of it that way. And also, hopefully, I think of it as just elevating your ability to do what you're already great at and to bring hopefully some even more to that.
Yeah, exciting.
And
Thank
it all comes from you. That's the cool part of it.
Yeah.
So, Devin, I'm so happy you're here.
Hi, thank you. Yeah.
Tell us
My
about
name is
yourself.
Devin and I'm in Texas. And so about a year ago, I became certified in past life regression, and I got multiple certifications in that, really just like honing in on it all. But I felt like I wasn't able to help the people coming to me to the best of my ability. So I was like, okay, I'm going to learn hypnotherapy. But I ended up taking like it was a one course online. It was kind of this technique will apply and help everyone. At the
Uh-oh.
time, I was like,
Uh-oh.
oh, okay, he's saying
Red
it.
flag, red flag.
Yeah, yeah, it was a red flag, but I still took it and I was like, okay, yeah. And it was only like one induction and one, um, like it was just very, this is the way to do it. And I tried doing it and I wasn't really, I was helping maybe a small percent of people, but it wasn't enough. And I was really interested in, oh, there's my cat. Uh,
Don't
in,
disconnect her.
I love that.
yeah, exactly. And I've been interested in internal family systems, and so I wanted to
Nice.
get a book on that. And I found Roy Hunter's book on parts on Amazon, and so I got
Mhm.
that book, and it started this whole rabbit hole for me about how um, just all about hypnosis and how things need to be client directed and not just one technique will fit everyone. And in the past month, I've read three of his books, over 800 pages. Like I've just, yeah, and I was like, I need to continue learning more and actually get like certified with an organization. And yeah, that's why I'm here. And I love healing and the mind and just all the power that lies within the conscious and the subconscious. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
What part of Texas are you in? I know I've
I'm
got it here
in,
somewhere, but
I'm in San Antonio.
San Antone.
Yeah.
I had an uncle back in the 60s that was a sheriff in San Antonio. I never got to go there back in those days, but I think I drove through there one time when I was on the road.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like Texas. I like Texas.
It is big. It's very big.
Yeah, it takes a long time to drive through. I know that. Well, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad you brought up Roy Hunter, and you're diving in. I love that you're immersing yourself in all of this. By the way, I am a trainer. I think I might have been in the very first. Roy Hunter said he was trained by Charles Tebbets. He was mentored by the gentleman who coined that term parts therapy back in the 1970s, which seems like that's when everybody was doing a lot of stuff, NLP, a lot of different things. And Roy Hunter took over the mantle, of course, and did a lot of writing about it. And he created a foundation, Tebbets Parts Therapy Foundation. And I believe at the conference might have been in Orlando or wherever it was that year, a few years ago. I believe I was in the first group that he started doing trainings through that foundation for people to become certified parts therapy trainers, CPTT. Everything's got an acronym, right? That's one of my certifications you'll find. And I had a lot of opportunities to work with Roy, and I've presented that version of parts therapy as a certified parts therapy trainer through Tebbets a few times. And then because it really was a good education for me as well, learning it and teaching it. And then I kind of stopped because I've got my own things that I had already developed, and I had my own style of parts therapy that's a little bit more NLP influenced. It's a little, and but I really think that's a great way to immerse yourself in learning about parts therapy, because man, he really gets into every little possible detour and every little if this happens, if that happens, and it really gets your mind working. And then again, I'm glad you found out that there's not one technique or approach for every client. And I'm sorry to say that there are a couple of newer schools out there that are putting a whole lot of hypnotists out in the world. I won't ever say anything bad about any other trainer or any other school. I will say though, I'm noticing a couple of them that I've been hearing from students that take my trainings, that they're teaching that. Like, you got to do it this way and do it exactly like this every time and every client. And if you deviate, it won't work. It's like, okay, it's not it that works, it's the person that works. And yeah, Art, jump in, please. I know you have been in this.
I went to a weekend, 2-day training a while back, and this guy was teaching it, and we went through a lot of techniques to get a client to close their eyes when you're starting the induction. And the second day, we're still on eye closure, and finally I said, what difference does it make whether their eyes are open or closed? You can hypnotize somebody with their eyes open just as well. And he said, yeah, but that makes me nervous. I just want them to close their eyes. So we're there at a 2-day workshop to take care of his problem with his nervousness. So you run into everything you can think of with this. Really, wow.
That's funny you said that, because yesterday I was reviewing a whole bunch of things and reading some new articles and stuff. And I ran across some stuff on Sigmund Freud again. And I was being reminded of the reason why he really was high on hypnosis for a long time, for quite a while. And then at some point he decided to announce to the world that he just thought that psychoanalysis was just a better and more permanent way to help people. I think it's a permanent way to get an income from clients for the rest of your life. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's what he discovered. But he developed psychoanalysis, but then he said, he thought it was better than hypnosis. But he still said he thought hypnosis was extremely powerful and useful. And it turns out he just was really bad at doing hypnosis. So of course he didn't like people to even look at him when he worked with them. He'd have them facing the other direction. That's not a good way to get rapport. Oh, here comes Robin. Yay. Oh, she just missed all of the introductions. What a shame, what a shame. Well, she knows you already, Angela, so you can fill her in. And there will be recordings. Hello, Robin. You missed quite a bit actually, but so far it's just introductions. So in a minute we'll put you on the spot, even though you didn't get to hear the rest. But once I edit these, you'll all have them eventually, as I have time to edit them. Might not be right away, but anyway, Art, you were starting to say, we were talking about Sigmund Freud being.
Yeah, what I heard was that he did not like hypnosis because he had to sit too close to the person, and his breath was so bad. But he had really bad dental problems, and finally lost all of his teeth, had wooden teeth and everything. But
it was all that cocaine. Yeah, he had some problems.
That he had to do psychotherapy where he could get them on a couch, and they were far enough away, and they wouldn't smell his breath. And so that's another reason why he didn't like hypnosis, that you had to be too close.
Yeah, he had a lot of issues. Well, his name will come up here and there, and I don't want to belittle his contribution to both the fields of psychotherapy and frankly, even hypnotherapy, because he did have his place in history where he was able to influence a lot of people in the medical and the psychology community to open up and to accept and to be able to be introduced to the power of all this. So he just, like I said, he just wasn't very good at it for multiple reasons coming from him. And but that's a whole nother thing. So Robin, I know you know Angela, she reminded me. And you can watch our intros later. You can always look Art and me, you can look up our bios if you really want to read about all the things we've done, because we've been doing this so long now that your list gets pretty long if you do it long enough. So anyway, but we want to be introduced to you. So here's what we would like to hear. Who you are, where you're from, what brought you to this field, what's your interest here, and how did you end up sitting here with us today?
I am from Easton, PA. Through Angela. Sorry, I have 2 dogs behind me, so that's what you hear growling right now. Dialoguing. I do craniosacral therapy, and the dialoguing is really what has drawn me here. And Angela and I sharing together Plus, I had a massage session not too long ago where I was trying to decide if I was going to take the course, and something came up in my arm. Like as soon as she got to my arm, and it was like, I'm doing this for myself as well to explore what more is going to come out of this. So that is why I am here.
That's great. And I'll tell you a secret. We're all here for ourselves.
Mm.
You know, we might be here to better ourselves or to help ourselves to keep helping other people. That might be what we think is our motivation, but humans do things because they get benefit from it. Even I always bring up, Michael Watson the trainer's trainer for IACT. He talks about Mother Teresa. Everybody said, oh, she was so selfless. She was the most selfless person. She just gave to everybody. She got a lot of satisfaction inside of herself with all she did. From the outside looking at her, she looked selfless, but her motivation was coming from inside of her. It made her feel wonderful to be able to help people. So, selfishness is not a bad thing in the right context. And if we realize we do everything we choose to do is because we think we're motivated that it may improve our quality of life in some way, right? So that kind of realizing that's why your clients are coming to you. They want something to be better than it has been. Right. Yeah. All right.
I am doing this because I understand that when you die and go to heaven and you get questioned about the quality of your life, and the question is, tell me all the things you did to help people that were not as well off as you are. And I just wanted to have a long list of things that I could talk about. I thought that might help me get into heaven.
That's your motivation.
That's a selfish reason, yeah.
There you go. See? If you get in there, I love that. So
help
great.
more people. That's the key.
Robin, just can you remind me, are you the sanial Craig? I'm becoming dyslexic all of a sudden. Cranial sacral. Is that, or the dialogue? You said you're here for dialoguing. You want to learn.
Well, along with the craniosacral, there's SCR work, somato emotional release, and then dialoguing. So that's why when I had listened in on the one Zoom with you, I recognized a lot of what you were sharing, because that's the way Dr. Upledger came in with it. And so, yeah.
Nice. So is that something you get licensed in? Is that a licensed type of
you don't have to be licensed, but they recommend the certification, and I did get certified in it.
Okay, so it's kind of like hypnotherapy. There's not really licensing.
But you do have to have license to touch. So I know that it's falling under massage. I have my massage license, and it's falling under that. And a lot more people are actually doing it, and doctors are recommending it. So
yeah.
And a lot of therapists are recommending it.
Exactly. A lot of people are, they're delving into all these because some of them can really meld together nicely. A lot of
the mind
chiropractors and people that do chiropractor or massage, you were talking about acupuncture, are learning that they can combine it nicely. So the licensing you have is for massage therapy?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to get a flavor for it, because there's, the law is the law on unlicensed type hypnotherapy people, because there is no licensing, frankly. I think there's a couple states that have some kind of a license for it. We'll talk about that legal stuff, later on in the training. Definitely we'll be going over scope of practice and the legalities. I am obviously more familiar. I feel like I'm pretty much an expert on Florida law for hypnosis, for hypnotherapy. Most, if not a lot of the states, if not most of them, have similar laws to Florida, and yet each one's different. We'll get into all of that later, because that is important. You got to know what can I do? What is the way to do this legally? We don't want to step over any lines. I certainly don't. Like I said, I'm going to be doing this the rest of my life. So 34 years and counting professionally, and 20 before that unofficially for myself. And what you said, I love it, because Robin, because we hopefully when you know all these wonderful things that you do them for yourself. Because you're going to hear in this training and most books you would read on hypnosis, if not all of them, that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And the reason that's repeated so often is because we guide the person into that state where they're able to access within themselves. But if they don't want to do it, or they don't choose to follow your direction, or if they resist consciously to be hypnotized, you can't make them do it. You know, it's you can't do it for them, in other words. So hopefully you're using this, all of the things you're learning for yourself as well, because the better you are at doing hypnosis and self-hypnosis and all these things, all the nice techniques you already know and things that you're going to be learning here, the better you can share it and, you know, explain it and all of those things and have examples of how you've used it with other people. And this isn't, I have a separate medical hypnotherapy specialty certification training that I developed for people who are already certified hypnotherapists with at least 200 hours of training. They don't have to be trained through IACT or IMDHA. But that training I developed because I didn't see anything out there. And when I was learning all of the medical and the addictions and all of that, you know, part of it, there was a school in Arizona that's no longer there, and the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association didn't really have a certification. I thought, well, it's in their name. They should at least have a basic medical hypnotherapy training. So I developed it because of the great trainers that I had in Arizona and all the other studying and trainers that I'd had through the years. And I said, let's at least have a starting point for this. And even though this training isn't officially a medical certification, it does touch on pain relief. You're gonna have a very simple process, pretty much the one I use with almost anybody in some fashion. That's a very easy to learn thing to deal with pain, to deal with some of the things that as an unlicensed hypnotherapist, you would get a medical referral for. Because we don't treat, you'll hear me say this a lot, we don't treat, prescribe, or diagnose unless you are licensed in something else, like some of you are, that allows you to do that for whatever the client's coming for. So in other words, if you're a licensed mental health counselor and somebody comes with headaches, with migraine headaches, let's say, that's not under the licensure, I don't believe, of a licensed mental health counselor. So you would still want to get them evaluated by the appropriate medical doctor. And we'll go through a lot about scope of practice, like I said, and the laws and all of those things. So let's get the logistics out of the way. This is what I do with clients too. I think of a hypnosis training, by the way, and this started early on. I think of the hypnosis training, even if it goes on for multiple months, as this one does, I think of it as a really long hypnosis session in a lot of ways, because the setup is very, very important. The starting point, how you start. That's why I asked you, what brought you here? What are you looking for here? You know, what is it that motivated you to come here? What is your intention? All those kind of things. Through the weeks of the training, we're going to talk about different deepening techniques, one of which, and can also be used as a hypnotic induction technique, called fractionation. It's a big word that took me a while to get used to saying, much less understand it. But fractionation is where you allow someone to get comfortable in a little light state of hypnosis with their eyes closed, for instance, just as an example. And then you have them holding on to the relaxation. Now open your eyes and come out here with me again. And then you talk to them a little bit, and then you have them close their eyes and go back in. And then you might have them open their eyes again and talk a little bit. So each time you have them go back, you're giving them hypnotic language to go more deeply into that state, right? So it can be a deepening technique. It's used a lot on purpose in a hypnosis session. And I think of a training as being, you're kind of in a light alpha state through most of the training, if I'm doing my job, because that's your learning state. We're going to talk about that in a minute, a little bit more. So as you're learning, because all learning occurs unconsciously, you're paying attention and doing and thinking with your conscious mind, but the learning actually occurs at the unconscious level. And by the way, if you use the word subconscious, that's fine. That's what Freud used. That's what a lot of hypnotherapists use. I just use unconscious. It's just habit. I started out saying subconscious, and then I was hanging out with Michael Watson a lot for a few years, and my habit changed. That's all that is. When you hear me say it in this training, it just means everything that's outside of your awareness. Conscious is right now what you're aware of, which is just a little bit, depending on where you're looking or what you're thinking about in the moment. All the rest is unconscious, that's outside of your awareness. So just to clarify my language.